Hey, it's Alan Berg. Before we get into this episode, I'm starting something called Ask Me Anything. That's right. You submit your questions and they could become an entire episode or something that I answer at the end of an episode. To submit your questions, look for the red button at podcast.alanberg.com. That's right, podcast.alanberg.com. Click on the red button, submit your question, and maybe you'll hear it here on the podcast. Thanks. Use is, not was, when posting a review. Listen to this episode and see why. Welcome to another episode of the Wedding Business Solutions Podcast. I'm your host, Alan Berg. I'm a speaker, sales trainer, consultant, author, and I help businesses like yours sell more, profit more, and have a little more fun doing it. Enjoy this episode. Hey, it's Alan Berg. Welcome back to another episode of the Wedding Business Solutions Podcast. I was listening to a book called Magic Words by Jonah Berger, Magic Words by Jonah Berger. And interesting point that he brought up, and he said, when you're writing a review or reading a review, some people say the food was good in that restaurant, the service was good. And other people say the service is good or the food is good. And we trust that is more than the was, because the is sounds like it's happening now, as opposed to the was sounds like it was happening before. So I started thinking about that, the reviews that I've posted, the reviews that people have posted about me. And if you haven't reviewed this, if you have the ability to do this on Apple or YouTube or whatever, we appreciate that, or on Google. What about the reviews people have posted about you? They are great. They were great. I think about that difference in the wording there. It's such a subtle thing, but it does make a difference. So how can we use this for ourselves? Is if we're posting a review, can we give that courtesy to that business and say is instead of was? And then can we guide our couples, guide our clients when they're posting a review about us to use the present tense as opposed to the past tense? Because we know that recent reviews are the most important, but when you're reading a review, you don't first always look at the date. You might read the review or see the headline if it has one, and then you might look at the date to see, okay, was that last week, last year, 5 years ago, or whatever. But it was an interesting little thing. And this is going to be a short episode, but I just want you to think about this the next time you post a review, or go back and read the reviews, or think about the reviews that you're going to use on your website, in your marketing, and things like that. And the one, maybe choosing one, if you had a choice of two, choosing to use one that has is instead of was, or a current in a present tense as opposed to a past tense, so that people will see that. So if I go to your website and somebody said, the food was amazing, right? Is that good? Yes. And if somebody else says, my guests are still raving about how great the food was, there's a was, but my guests are still is a current, is a present tense thing, right? So it's just a little tweak there. And then I wonder if there's other points in our marketing and in our advertising where watching that wording and making sure we're not using past tense words when we could be using current present tense verbs and words to talk about this is what's going on now, as opposed to this has happened, but is it still happening is the kind of unknown there. So just a quick thing about this, is versus was, right? So I post reviews a lot on TripAdvisor, Yelp, and Google, right? And they say I'm one of the top reviewers there. It's just because I travel a lot, so I have the opportunity. And believe me, I don't post every place that I've gone to, but I'm going to think about it the next time I'm writing a review and try to use the present words instead of the past words to give that business the courtesy, especially if I'm posting a really good review, which is usually the case because we try to pick places based upon, the reputation anyway. So if I had a great experience, if I say, the gluten-free pancakes are delicious instead of were delicious, slight difference. And it's just going to help them. It's going to help me think in terms of that, and maybe it'll encourage some other people. So if you're going to be asking your couples or your clients, maybe there's a wording for this. I'm not even sure. I'm just thinking about this on the fly. So if somebody has a good idea for that, please message me. How could you word it that you can ask your couples to use the present tense instead of the past tense with that, without it seeming like you're being too heavy-handed in how you're asking them to post the review. But it's just an interesting little different twist. When I was listening to this book, I made this note. That's how I come up with a lot of these podcast topics, is something just sparks and say, Oh, yeah, is, not was. Makes the difference. So nice short episode. Hope it gives you something to think about. Go look into your reviews. Go look at the ones you're using, and look at the wording on your site. And this also, maybe you could use AI to update your wording and say, let's make sure I'm not using past tense words. I'm using present tense words to talk about my services, so people know that we're doing this now. Thanks for listening. Hi, it's Alan Berg. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Wedding Business Solutions podcast. If you have a suggestion for a future topic or a guest, please go to podcast.alanberg.com and you can make your suggestion there. You can also do it at Ask Me Anything, which is a button on that page, or just email me at alan@weddingbusinesssolutions.com. And if you'd like to find out how I can help you with sales training, website review, consulting, or speaking for your group or organization, possibly at no cost to the organization, contact me directly, alan@weddingbusinesssolutions.com. Thanks again for tuning in.